take away from both games. I did this in both.
I just need the apology to be as loud as the disrespect was. That's all I need. It was a bad shot, but he was out of rhythm as well.
Don't try to take up. That was a bad
shot. He was out of rhythm though.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Kendall. I'm here with my man Khalil, and this is another episode of the Wild Card.
Mm-hmm. I'm happy to be back, bro. You know, it's been so many rumors floating around football-wise. I'm so excited. You know, we've been trying to get this on the road for a minute, and I'm just happy to be back. I'm happy to be back talking about some ASU football. You know, we're going to talk about everything, national sports, but, you know, the most immediate thing that's impacting us right now on campus come August is the countdown football season, man.
I'm excited.
So
this might be my most anticipated football season.
Because you know, in January, we didn't have an expectation of what this team was going to be. We were just like, oh, okay, you know, it is what it is. We were joking the real estate agent, and he came with some recruits.
Definitely a lot of jokes, but yeah.
You know, I came through with the insight on Dematrious Davis transferring. Nobody believed me, but I did. I claimed it, and it happened. But, you know, overall, like I said, we're excited about this season coming up. I'm going to give y'all a little bit of previews. We got a couple rumors that happened this past week. There's nothing official, but we just want to address what it could be if it does happen. So, Kendall, let's start it off. A lot of big recruits coming in this semester. Summer football started about a week ago, I believe, 2 weeks ago.
Something like that.
What do you think about the outlook of this team?
So for me personally, looking at this team, I definitely have to say that Coach Robinson transformed this team completely. For better or for worse, this team is going to look totally different than it did the last time we saw him. I think that he addressed a lot of issues on offense, which is something that
started with the quarterback. Yeah,
exactly. And that's probably the biggest one that we needed. We had 3 quarterbacks play last year. I didn't think any of them were too great, but they were all serviceable quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like now we finally have a certified star at the position. And, you know, he also gave him a lot of weapons too.
Yeah, he gave him definitely a lot of weapons. The thing that we knew that if they added a quarterback 9 times out of 10, the guys that came that were already there, somebody was leaving, and you saw that with Ryan transferring to Tuskegee.
Yep.
I'm personally still surprised that Miles is still there.
I'm not necessarily surprised just because of the fact that we saw it in the spring game and spring practices. Miles was running like ones.
Yeah, he was.
So at that point, that's telling me either Ryan knew he was leaving or he beat Ryan out for that spot.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the biggest weakness that we both know on this team right now is the offensive line. So we can have all the skill position players we want. We can have the greatest wide receivers and look. Because I will say we have one of the best skill positions, I believe, in the SWAC. I think we can compete talent-wise on paper. I think this team, go ahead.
Talent-wise, I really honestly believe that talent-wise on paper, we can compete with any team in the SWAC. And it's really just about X's and O's.
People want to talk about Jackson State, but Jackson State's offense was not great this year.
It wasn't.
So we really have that far to go offensively? Because obviously our offense wasn't great, but we do remember against Jackson State, it was 7-7 the whole game. And the only difference was we couldn't score, and their defense that's the biggest part of Jackson State, their defense. That's why you see them adding so many wide receivers nowadays, because their offense was not great. Shador, they don't have a great offensive line. They still don't. So, you know, they're still trying to fill some holes out there, and I think we have to take advantage of that.
I mean, yeah, it's the same thing with us. You know, it's really hard for a defense, especially a defense that doesn't generate points. We may have generated turnovers, but we didn't generate points. It's really hard for.
Did we really generate that many turnovers? Honestly,
we generated more turnovers than we did points. That's about it. So I mean, like, it's really hard for a defense to go out there and be like, all right, you know, we get a stop, and then two to three plays later, we're back on the court.
Yeah.
I mean, back on the field. That's tough to do every game, all game.
Yeah, it is.
And then it makes them look worse because by the end of the game, you know, they're tired and they're prone to give up plays.
Mm-hmm.
So we had people telling we had a top 5, top 3 defense in the SWAC.
I think we did.
And, you know, I think that they got better. I really do. But at the same time, I think that this team really does go as far as the offense does, in a sense of, if we can't compete against the defenses in the SWAC, we're not going to be anything.
I mean, but that I don't think that's just ASU in general. I think that's just the modern day football. You have to have an offense. You have to have a quarter. There's no more 9-6 games. If this was back, early 2000s, early 2010s, this would be a really good team because we got two good running backs. We had Ezra and Ja'Cory, and obviously Ezra got hurt. But when our previous coaching staff was focused more on running the football, more pro style offense, I think that with this new staff. We saw it in the spring game. They're going to add a little bit more flavor because you can't just that modern style is you still need it. It's still the ground basic chords. It's still your principles, but you got to have some Chiefs kind of trick plays in there. You got to have some Patrick Mahomes kind of plays in there.
They got like motions and stuff. Like I don't know if we saw a whole lot of motions at all last.
I don't remember seeing any motions.
Like we got motions now. Yeah. They got they also have a lot of deep ball threats. We had the quarterbacks that we had last season, especially Ryan, he utilized tight ends probably more than his wide receivers. Besides Jeremiah, who was pretty consistent, outside of that, the wide receiving core didn't get a whole lot of burn as far as consistency. Those tight ends, they were targeted a lot. They may not have been, they may not have all resulted in completions, but they were definitely targeted a lot.
Yeah.
Now we have players that can play wide receiver and do the same thing. Definitely. Be those deep ball threats that we need in order for us to, have more depth to our offense.
And we have you definitely need a better receiving core, and that's the first thing I saw him add this year. And we already I think that our receiving core was good last year, but we didn't have a lead quarterback to get the ball. Jeremiah, we saw at the Max D Classic, he was by far the best. I think let me not say the best player on the field, but he was the best receiver on the field on both sides.
He's a dog, yeah.
So you're adding a guy, and we haven't even really talked about Dematrious Davis. We're gonna get a better feel for what he is as the season goes along. But he's dynamic. He can throw the ball. You see, he has a very strong arm. I don't want to say Lamar Jackson. I don't want to say that, but people are giving a lot of similarities to previous quarterbacks of Tavares Jackson. That's what they're hoping to regain again in ASU. But I think that we have
he's definitely a dual threat for sure. He's definitely a dual threat quarterback, and I think that adds a lot more of a dynamic to this team when you have a quarterback that can reliably scramble, but also get the ball down the field too. Our quarterbacks last year, they could do that a little bit, but you could tell that they weren't always as comfortable.
Yeah,
he looks completely comfortable doing that, and
he's gonna take hold. I think if he comes in and plays the way that I think he can, there will be no question who the best quarterback on this team is. We all last year we had
that was up in the
Miles.
Air. There was no answer. As soon as Ryan went down and Miles started playing well, then I think it was the FAMU game when Joe got in. It was all up in there after that. I don't think anybody knew who was going to start, who was going to do this, who was going to do that week to week after that.
Exactly. We made our starting quarterback predictions back in, I think that was April. And I said Joe. I think you said Miles, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't even remember, man. That was so long ago. It was one of the two. I do know that much.
Exactly. But the point is, there is a different it's a different face now. It's a different face. I'm excited to see what's going to happen offensively. Now let's talk about what's going on defensively as far as the coaching staff. Antone Sewell, they're saying he's possibly out, headed to Morgan State. I sent you a lot of his tweets, and he was one of the lead voices recruiting wise. He's one of the guys that was pulling in some of these defensive players. We got to meet a couple at the spring game. What do you think about that so far?
So my thing with that is I'm trying to figure out, and obviously it's a rumor, it hasn't been completely confirmed, but if it is true that he is leaving, that's two defensive coordinators in a couple of months span of each other that we've gone through.
To be fair, one was released and one was
fair. We had Travis Pearson and then we had Antone Sewell. And my whole thing with that is, I don't know if it's the fact that Coach Robinson was a defensive player, so I'm guessing he's going to be a defensive-minded coach. That's still to be seen. But I don't know if that's like if he's clashing with his defensive coordinators because of that. Because I'll give you a quick example. So when I was a senior in high school, I had a really good defensive coordinator. His name was Jeff Gouline. He was a great defensive mind, all of that. And we had a head coach come in my senior year. His name was Nick Bach. He came in. defensive-minded head coach. He played defense in college. He came from Buffalo.
Yep.
You could tell they clashed because one had a different thought process about defense than the other. And I said all of that to say I feel like that may be what's going on with Eddie Robinson. Obviously, that's my thought, but it's nothing, confirmed or anything. But I just feel like there has to be like a little bit of tension between them tension between him and whoever is in that position. Because as a defensive player that's done it in the pros, you obviously feel like you have a little bit of understanding of how to run a defense.
I mean, you said that and I wouldn't be surprised, but that's not one of my takeaways. I personally believe that I think our defense is fine. For all in all, I think the defense was a strong part last year. I think the way they went about recruiting this year was great. They still added, the rich got richer on defense, but you got what you needed offensively to be successful outside of the offensive line. That's a whole nother topic for another day. But I think that defensively, like you said, I think Coach Robinson's going to he's going to be in those meeting rooms slaying his suggestions because he played in the NFL. He has experience. He has a certain way that he wants to have things ran. But I don't believe that, and it's just from me observing him a couple of times I've been around him, he doesn't seem like a guy that just comes in and just takes over. He's not coming in and just he's not this abrasive personality that's going to push everybody away. I'm going to take control. He seems very laid back, very, if it comes, it comes, it goes, it goes. He's very mellow, to say.
I think it's a little bit difficult just to be put in that position to begin with, because not only are you trying to establish your own culture, but you're also trying to change the way that the team has been looked at for years.
Yeah.
That's really hard to do all in one season. We saw Coach Prime. He tried to do that with Jackson State. And, regardless of whoever was playing, whoever wasn't, he was still on the sidelines.
Yeah.
That first year. And they didn't live up to the expectations that people had of them. So I feel like it's a little bit hard for a coach in that position to not only have to build that culture, but also have to navigate this team to winning again. And I feel like, that may lead to some of those issues. But like you said, it may not be that. I really don't know, but that's just a speculation on my end.
I'm just hoping that we don't mess around and lose some of these recruits that he brought in. I hope they were more committed to the actual program than just a coach.
I mean, from the two that we talked to, Chauncey Moore and a couple other guys, they sounded like they bought into whatever Coach Robinson was selling. We talked about the fact that him being a real estate agent earlier when we first got him.
That was you, but go ahead.
You said some things too, but all right. But I just feel like, that definitely plays a part, as far as him being able to sell a program, especially, building up this program differently than it has been before. So I think that some of these players are definitely more and like you said, hopefully they're more attached to the culture and Coach Robinson than just a specific coach.
Yeah, because the transfer portal is definitely still hot. I don't Absolutely. Personally, I always say there's a deadline because I keep looking online to see, okay, when it's over. But every single day I'm seeing somebody else enter their name in transport and their name in transport. Like, yeah, it's crazy. But we'll leave it at that, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in this episode.
Absolutely.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Follow us on our IG.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram at Wildcards2K. And follow us on Instagram at Hornets Tribune. Follow Wildcards2K first because, we need our followers. But, appreciate y'all tuning in. We out.
Peace.